Since I've been alive, which has been 23 years, Auburn basketball really hasn't been relevant. Auburn was more known for football. You had the years with Cadillac Williams, you had the Cam Newton year, and you had the Nick Marshall years. Can't forget about the Jarrett Stidham years. And Auburn basketball was irrelevant all those years up until Bruce Pearl made them relevant. Bruce Pearl is now on his 11th season with the Auburn Tigers, and his team currently right now sits at 27-3, and they have arguably the best player in the nation in Johni Broome. They won the Maui Invitational. They were number 1 seed in the SEC. They're going to be a number 1 seed in the tournament, and they're the favorite by many to win the NCAA tournament. But it wasn't always this way for Auburn and Bruce Pearl. So let's take a look at the rise of Bruce Pearl and the Auburn Tigers. Before Bruce Pearl, Auburn wasn't used to seeing consecutive winning seasons that ended in NCAA tournament appearances. Auburn has only made consecutive NCAA tournaments before Bruce Pearl twice. They made it from 1983 all the way to 1988, and this was the era where Auburn had Charles Barkley, Chuck Pearson, and Chris Morris, 3 NBA players. Then they made it consecutive times in 98 through 2000 when they had guys like Chris Porter and Marquise Daniels. After those couple of seasons, Auburn went through a long stretch that is, of coaches and terrible seasons. That was until Auburn hired Bruce Pearl going into the 2014-15 season. Bruce Pearl was a successful head coach everywhere he went. When he was at Southern Indiana, he coached them to a Division II championship. When he was at the University of Milwaukee, he coached them to the tournament twice, including the Sweet 16 appearance. After a couple years in Milwaukee, he then went to Tennessee, where he reached the tournament every year. The furthest they got with Pearl was the Elite Eight. The only problem with Bruce Pearl's stint at Tennessee was the fact that he was under investigation for recruiting violations. So on March 18, 2014, Bruce Pearl was named the head coach of the Auburn Tigers basketball team, but he still had a 5-month period where he couldn't contact recruits due to his past violations at Tennessee. Now, Pearl's contract was a 6-year, $2.2 million contract, and when he first got hired, he said, "I don't know how long it'll take, but it's time to rebuild the Auburn basketball program." Funny enough, November 14, 2014, Pearl got his first win as the Auburn head coach against his former team, Milwaukee, 83-72. Despite starting the season out on a high note, Pearl and the Auburn Tigers would end the season 15-20, 4-14 in conference play, and second to last in conference standings. The next season really didn't get any better. They actually went 11-20, which is worse than the first season, but they had 5 wins in conference play compared to 4 wins the previous season. But the next season is where Auburn will start to improve under Bruce Pearl, as they won 18 regular season games, but in conference play they still struggled. Also, for some reason, some of these wins got taken away this season. I don't know why. If an Auburn fan knows, please comment down below. But with those 18 regular season wins, that means all they have to do is win a couple games in the SEC tournament, and maybe they can sneak in to the big dance. But that didn't happen. They lost in the first round to Missouri. Although this team was a disappointment, they also had some pieces that will help in the future in Daniel Purifoy, Jared Harper, Bryce Brown, and Austin Wiley. Now, all those players will come back to Auburn for the 17-18 season. To add on, they also added players Chuma Okeke, Sam Dottie, and Malik Dunbar. Davion Mitchell was also in this recruiting class, but that kind of wouldn't matter because after this season he would transfer. So in 2017-18, Pearl will lead Auburn to the best record since 1999, having a 26 win and 8 loss season, including a 13-5 record in conference play. Auburn will end the season ranked number 16 in the AP poll. They would, of course, go to the SEC tournament where they lost in the quarterfinals to Alabama, but they would still have an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. In March Madness, they would beat College of Charleston, but then they would get waxed by Clemson, ending their season in the round of 32. Although that season, they were just scratching the surface of what this team could be the following season, because the next season, they was returning Bryce Brown, Jared Harper, Malik Dunbar, Austin Wiley, Daniel Purifoy. They was also adding a key player in Javon McCormick. Now, this team opened up the season ranked number 11, and they were pretty good in non-conference play, only suffering 2 losses, and they came in 3rd place in the Maui. Now, in conference play, I guess you can say where they kind of struggled. They had 7 losses. They lost to every ranked team that they played, except for Tennessee at the end of the season. So, to end the regular season, they went 11-7 in conference play, and they ended the season with a 22-9 record. But when they got to the SEC tournament, they ran the table and won the SEC tournament. And with that, they'll be awarded a 5th seed in March Madness, and they would have a gauntlet of a bracket to go through to win a national title. Auburn would start against 12-seeded New Mexico State that had future NBA player Trevelin Queen. Right near the end of the game, New Mexico State had a chance to take the lead or tie, but Terrell Brown missed 2 out of 3 free throws. Trevelin Queen would miss a go-ahead 3, and Auburn would survive and advance. They would then go on to play a young Kansas squad that had freshman Devon Dotson, Quentin Grimes, Ochai Agbaji, and David McCormick. Although that game would be no problem for Auburn as they would win 89-75, basically controlling that game from start to finish.
Slipped. Brown racing up ahead. Hands off. Wiley!
So Auburn would advance to the Sweet 16, where they had a date with North Carolina that was led by veterans Luke May and Cam Johnson, but also had star freshmen in Nas Little and Kobe White. For a good portion of that game, it was close, but at some point in the second half, Auburn pulled away and won 97-8.
The first time in 33 years, Auburn is elite.
Although they made it to the Elite Eight, they would be without their star player Chuma Okeke as he tore his ACL against UNC. Also, another problem was that in the Elite Eight, they was going up against a Kentucky squad that had Tyler Hero, Keldon Johnson, Emil Quickly, and PJ Washington. And this game was an instant classic between these two teams. It would go into overtime where Auburn would pull out the win and they would advance to the Final Four.
For the first time, Auburn is going to the Final Four.
And the UVA team they faced in the Final Four was stacked too, as they had Kyle Guy, Ty Jerome, DeAndre Hunter, and Jay Huff. Due to a double dribble that wasn't called, and then 3 free throws to end the game, UVA would then end Auburn's March Madness run. Even though they got bounced out in the Final Four and they lost a couple of key players, they would still keep Sam Dottie, Javon McCormick, Austin Wiley, and add blue chip recruit Isaac Okoro. And the 1920 team was better than the 1819 team record-wise, as they was 25-6 and all 6 of the losses came during conference play. And they were rewarded with the number 2 seed in the SEC tournament, but they never got to play because of the pandemic. It ended the season. I don't think this team really went really crazy far, probably to the Sweet 16 at best. The next year you had some players returning, but really this team featured Sharif Cooper and JT Thor. Even though this team had 2 freshmen that went on to play in the NBA, this team really wasn't good. They went 13-14 and they went 7-11 in conference play. They were unranked throughout the entire season. They couldn't even participate in the March Madness anyways because former assistant Chuck Pearson was involved in a scandal. In the offseason, Bruce Pearl went out and reformed his roster, got Wendell Green Jr., Katie Johnson, and Walker Kessler from the transfer portal, and he got blue chip recruit Jabari Smith Jr. I don't remember a crazy ton about this team, but what I do remember was Jabari Smith Jr. was a bucket, Walker Kessler was a great rim protector, and Katie Johnson and Wendell Green Jr. both took a lot of dumb shots in the clutch. In the regular season, this Auburn team will go 27-4, and all 4 losses were decided by just a couple of possessions. They will win the SEC regular season championship. They will get awarded the number 1 seed in the SEC tournament, where they will lose their first game to Texas A&M. They will still earn a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, where they beat Jacksonville State in the first round, but in the round of 32, they will lose to Miami. Jabari Smith Jr. and Walker Kessler both entered the draft, but they will still return Wendell Green and KD Johnson. They will also bring in Johni Broome from the transfer portal. Johni Broome wasn't the Johni Broome that we know now, but he was still good, averaging 14-8. But this team will go 20-11 in the regular season. They will once again lose their first game in the SEC tournament, and then they will win the first game in the NCAA tournament, but then lose in the round of 32 to Houston. Going into the next season, they will bring back Jalen Williams, Johni Broome, and Trey Donaldson. From the portal, they will bring in Chad Baker-Mazar, Denver Jones, and Chaney Johnson. Johni Broome and the team both improved. Johni Broome averaged 16-8 while the team went 24-7. And they once again won the SEC tournament, and they were awarded the 4th seed in the NCAA tournament. And they finally didn't get out in the round of 32. They got out in the round of 64 instead. This was a disappointing end to what was a good season for the Tigers. And losing in the first or second round of the NCAA tournament has been a theme for Bruce Pearl since he's been at Auburn. And now all those seasons that we went through currently leads us to this season. Right now, Auburn sits at 27-4, 15-3 in conference play. They won the SEC regular season championship. They're number 1 seed in the SEC tournament, and they're probably going to be a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. They have Johni Broome, who's up for National Player of the Year. They have one of the oldest, if not the oldest, roster in college basketball. On any given night, they can be the best team in the country. On some nights, they look like the best team. On some nights that Duke isn't playing, they look like the second best team. But let me know how far y'all think this Auburn team is going to go. I believe they're at least going to go to the Sweet 16. You know, somebody going to get upset at one point during the NCAA tournament, and it might be Auburn. But that'll be all for this video. Thank y'all for watching, and until next time, I'm out. Peace.